Tonight,
It's frankly a disgrace to our country.
to delay or not to delay.
The president's acquittal will be meaningless.
In a Senate impeachment trial ready to drag on, perhaps past Tuesday's State of the Union. This as Democrats in the 2020 presidential campaign race to the finish line in Iowa. And the State Department issues a warning against travel in China. Plus, Virginia sets a new tone.
If we have the majority, the work of a lifetime is the work of 2 afternoons.
As Democrats push for legislative changes. And
Even if I take this walk up,
Kanye West takes his Sunday service to Miami, ahead of Super Bowl Sunday. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation.
Tonight, awaiting a verdict. Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm John Jessup.
And I'm Jenna Browder. A delay in the works. Senators wrestling over whether to call for witnesses or a quick acquittal in the Senate impeachment trial.
CBN's White House correspondent Ben Kennedy is switching things up a little bit tonight. He's on Capitol Hill. Ben, where do things stand right now?
Well, John and Jenna, Republican leaders appear to have the votes to block witnesses in the impeachment trial. One of the 4 key senators, Tennessee's Lamar Alexander, announced he plans to vote no to witnesses, adding that he does believe the commander-in-chief's behavior was inappropriate, but does not meet the Constitution's high bar for an impeachable offense. Also, Senator Lisa Murkowski said today she will also vote no on witnesses, but Senator Susan Collins isn't following suit with her party, announcing she'll vote to subpoena witnesses. Now, Senator Chuck Schumer is urging other GOP senators to do the same, saying Republicans face a choice today between seeking the truth and covering it up.
If my Republican colleagues refuse to consider witnesses and documents in this trial, the president's acquittal will be meaningless because it will be the result of a sham trial. If there are no witnesses, no documents in this trial, there will be a permanent asterisk next to the acquittal of President Trump, written in permanent ink.
On the Senate floor moments ago, lawmakers echoed Schumer's remarks. Take a listen.
To be clear, we're not asking you to track down every single document or to call every possible witness. We have carefully identified only 4 key witnesses with direct knowledge who can speak to the specific issues that the president has disputed.
President Trump has pushed back that he did anything wrong multiple times, and he did it again at last night's rally in Michigan.
To remember, the tax cut was the biggest tax cut in the history of our country. And what do? They impeach you. Explain that one. But we have great Republicans out there, and they don't like it any better than you do. Very partisan situation, a disgrace. It's frankly a disgrace to our country.
That being said, Senator Mitt Romney is interested in hearing from witnesses and will vote yes. But without Alexander and Murkowski, Democrats are not expected to get enough votes needed to clear the way for new evidence. John and Jenna, we are also hearing reports, depending on how the vote goes, the final vote to acquit might not happen until after the State of the Union, scheduled for Tuesday, the 4th. And we'll, of course, keep you posted on what lawmakers decide. John, Jenna?
All right, Ben Kennedy on Capitol Hill, thank you. And here now for more, CBN's chief political analyst, David Brody. David, as Ben said, it doesn't look like we will see witnesses called. When could we see a vote to acquit the president?
Well, I think Ben is onto something there. I think it'll probably be Tuesday of next week. Oh, by the way, that's the day of the State of the Union. And oh, by the way, the day before that's the Iowa caucuses. And on Wednesday, we all rest. God rested on the 7th day. We rest on Wednesday because it's going to be crazy. But why is that exactly? The White House apparently is looking to do a little bit more with a closing argument. It's like, please, we've heard enough, but they want to do a little bit more. Plus, remember, the resolution right now about this trial only goes through the witnesses' vote. They have to now come up with a new resolution as to how they're going to conclude the trial. That's going to take some time because the senators are the most deliberative body, which means the clock keeps going and going and
Not
going.
the investigative body.
That's correct. The House is, and that's a whole nother can of worms.
David, let's talk about Chief Justice John Roberts. He's been in the spotlight, stealing the spotlight, 2 days in a row there in the impeachment trial. He's put on the spot when he had to read a question about his own legitimacy in the trial. And David, Chief Justice Roberts looked a little perturbed by that question by Senator Warren.
Yeah, it was definitely a partisan question by Elizabeth Warren. I mean, look, if you injected truth serum into Elizabeth Warren, she'd say the same thing. But the Chief Justice read it because it does go a little bit to the judiciary and where we are as a nation. And you know, I thought he did the right thing by actually reading it.
And how did Adam Schiff do answering that question?
Well, I think Adam Schiff, you know, I'll be honest with you, I thought Adam Schiff throughout this whole trial has been actually very, very good. But the problem is he's just dealing with what he's dealing with, and he can't go any further than that. I will say this, on the Chief Justice question, Lisa Murkowski, in her statement to say she's voting no on witnesses, actually cited Elizabeth Warren's question and said, you know what, that was part of this is a partisan thing from the beginning, and questions like that have no room at all in the Senate. And that was part of the reason she said no. So Elizabeth Warren kind of shot the Democrats a little bit in the foot.
Very interesting. Well, let's talk about 2020. It looks like Bernie Sanders has met up with Joe Biden in the national polls. David, what does it say if Bernie Sanders wins Iowa?
Well, and I laugh because I'm thinking of that. We've talked about this. The Democratic Party is going to be just going apoplectic at some point because they don't want him to win the nomination. And he is tied in Iowa. And guess what? He's winning by 15 points in New Hampshire. Uh-oh. Iowa and New Hampshire, good luck trying to stop Bernie at that point because they already tried that in 2016 and it didn't work out well. It worked out well for Hillary, but, you know, Bernie had a beef and an axe to grind, and he'll have one this time as well. I think what's going to be interesting to watch for Iowa, what the delegate breakdown is ultimately. In other words, Bernie could win, but if he wins by only 3 percentage points, then he gets a certain amount of delegates. Biden will get some, Elizabeth Warren will get some, and we might just have a muddled field.
Real quickly here on the front pages of the Des Moines Register today, impeachment over the Iowa caucuses. Your thoughts on that?
Well, this is exactly what Democrats were afraid of. That's exactly what they didn't want. Ask Amy Klobuchar, who's sitting in the Senate somewhere trying to get to Iowa, and she just can't. It's been a problem for her, problem for Elizabeth Warren. I guess not so much of a problem for Bernie. He's doing pretty well, but he's got momentum on his side.
All right, Chief Political Analyst David Brody, thank you for being with us. Have a great weekend.
You too. Thanks.
Well, tonight, the growing threat of the coronavirus. The U.S. declaring a public health emergency, now prompting the U.S. government to warn Americans against traveling to China. CBN National Security Correspondent Eric Phillips has more. Eric, this all comes as 3 major airlines stop service to mainland China, and the CDC imposes a mandatory quarantine.
Jenna, that's right. Tonight, the White House is set to bar entry of foreign nationals who pose a transmission risk. This after the State Department raised its China travel advisory to a red level 4. The bottom line here, don't go to China. Thursday night, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo pushed out this tweet, calling the travel advisory necessary due to the spread of the novel coronavirus and the emergency designation by the World Health Organization.
Only way we will defeat this outbreak is for all countries to work together in a spirit of solidarity and cooperation.
The official State Department notice goes on to say travelers should be prepared for travel restrictions to be put into effect with little or no advance notice. Friday, U.S. carriers Delta, American, and United Airlines announced suspension of travel to the Chinese mainland following the lead of other international airlines. Meanwhile, the streets of Wuhan, considered ground zero for the disease, are a ghost town. Numbers are climbing with about 10,000 confirmed cases of coronavirus worldwide and more than 200 deaths related to the illness. Thursday, the U.S. reported its 6th case and the first involving person-to-person transmission. Hundreds of Americans flying on a U.S. government-chartered plane earlier this week from China to California, now under a mandatory CDC 14-day quarantine.
It's just like a movie. It's just like a movie. You have to survive. And the movies are fake, but this is real life. And you have to take this real serious. And you have to take care of your body, take care of your mind.
Well, stocks took a tumble after U.S. airlines announced that they would halt service to China. The Dow Jones Industrial Average down more than 600 points, the latest evidence that the coronavirus is causing not only a major health concern, but an economic one as well. John and Jenna.
All right, thank you, Eric. Whiplash. That's how some Virginians are describing the feeling after the staggering changes in the legislature to turn the state's laws blue. In just a matter of weeks, the Old Dominion state has morphed into a progressive model for other states. Heather Sells explains.
Democrats have control of the legislature and governor's mansion for the first time in decades, and they're wasting no time turning the Commonwealth's laws blue.
I've been in academia, for 30 years or so, and it's been trickle, trickle, trickle. But boy, lately it's just been coming at us full speed.
One of the first moves, ratifying the Equal Rights Amendment. The deadline passed decades ago, but now the Virginia Attorney General and 2 other states are suing to have it added to the Constitution. That was followed by gun restrictions many thought impossible in Virginia, and new protections for LGBTQ people. It's astounding considering where the state was just 1 year ago. Virginia and the nation was shocked after this exchange that revealed a Democratic push to allow abortion up until the moment of birth.
Where it's obvious that a woman is about to give birth, she has physical signs that she is about to give a birth. Would that still be a point at which she could request an abortion if she was so certified? She's dilating.
My bill would allow that, yes.
The measure failed, but this is a new year. Now Democrats are eagerly rolling back laws intended to reduce abortions, like the 24-hour waiting period, a required ultrasound before an abortion so a woman can see her child, and information about alternatives, including how to get assistance for prenatal care.
We are discussing repealing provisions that have been added on over the past 20 years that shame women, that impair their ability to make their own decisions.
Republicans argue taking away these tools put women back in the dark.
Instead of informing and educating women, we're telling them for 24 hours, you don't need to know the information in that ultrasound. Make a decision without having all of the facts. I thought we were about empowering women.
Soon, nurse practitioners and physicians' assistants will be allowed to perform abortions. While many Virginians are surprised at the speedy changes, it's exactly what Democrats seeking control promised.
If we have the majority, the work of a lifetime is the work of 2 afternoons.
Governor Ralph Northam, a Democrat who is a pediatric neurologist by trade, is expected to sign the new abortion policy into law, along with other new liberal policies passed by the legislature. Heather Sells, CBN News.
All right, thank you, Heather. Coming up, faith in the 2020 presidential election. A network reporter gives us her take on the journeys of faith. That story next.
Come home to the sounds of Southern Gospel from CBN Radio. You'll enjoy a rich Southern blend of bluegrass, classic gospel, and Southern gospel favorites like the Gaithers, the Crab Family, and bluegrass sounds like Mountain Faith. So make yourself at home with the all-new CBN Southern Gospel. Now available at cbnradio.com.
Meet the pastors who are preaching the gospel in a fresh, fearless way. I'm Roberto Torres Cedillo. Join me each week for Next Gen Voices. And watch God transform a generation.
Prophecy thousands of years old.
We were called to be a light to the world.
Being fulfilled today. Discover how. Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life. Just call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religious he has, which color he is. This is what I'm doing.
See how the people of Israel are fulfilling prophecy
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
by sharing their knowledge
In Africa, in Asia, in South America, in East Europe.
and their love.
This is how we work. This is us.
Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
Well, welcome back. Many of you know ABC's Paula Ferris from anchoring weekends on Good Morning America to hosting The View. She's done an awful lot.
And now she's out with a new podcast called Journeys of Faith. And I caught up with her a little bit earlier. Take a look. So for our viewers at home, tell us a little bit about the format of your podcast and the guests you're interviewing.
Sure. So we just launched season 3 of Journeys of Faith. And what I really wanted to do was talk to newsmakers and influencers about their personal faith and how it guides them through the ups and downs of life. So again, we're on season 3. In past seasons, we've talked to Ben Shapiro, Kellyanne Conway, Tim Tebow, Sam Harris, who's an atheist. We've talked to Muslims. We've talked to Sikhs. We've talked to people of Jewish faith, people of Christian faith, because I think it's important to have these conversations that we all show up as our true selves. We start learning about one another's cultures and traditions, and I think then we can start to break down some of those barriers. But we just launched season 3, and we wanted to focus in this political climate. Of course, we're all talking about the election coming up at the end of the year, but to talk to politicians, some of the candidates, the 2020 candidates, and other influential politicians about how their faith really dictates their person and their policies. So it's a chance to get some of these candidates and these politicians, you know, off of the stump. Don't give us your stump speech. I want to hear more about your personal faith journey and hear how it's influencing your policies.
And Paula, what role do you see faith playing in 2020?
Oh, I think faith is playing a huge role. And for so long, I think the conservative community and the Republicans really had a hold on I would say more the evangelicals. But you see Democrats starting to talk about faith so much more because they know how important it is to a large swath of the country. And, you know, you see Senator Cory Booker, who has called out his fellow Democrats for not talking about faith as much as they should. And he says they're scared to not be seen as a big tent party. But you see more and more the Pete Buttigieg's of the world, the mayor from South Bend, Indiana, talking about his faith and how personal it is. And almost every candidate that's out there right now, they're bringing up their faith in some form or fashion because they know that it is so important, not just to the heart of the country, middle America. It is so important to so many of us. That's the reason that I really launched the podcast, is I can't separate myself from my faith. It's so important to me, and I know it's so important to so many people. And I wanted as a mainstream outlet to give these newsmakers and influencers a platform to talk about what they believe and why. And again, I said it's for people of many different faiths.
Let's talk about how this podcast did come to be. Leading up to it, I know you've said it was a year from hell. Can you talk about that?
Well, at the time, I was anchoring Good Morning America weekends. I was doing The View. I was working long stretches at a time, sometimes, 21 days without a day off. And frankly, Jenna, I just burnt out. And I was leaning into the wrong things. And, we buy that lie that our calling is our career, right? And so I was leaning in so hard, and I got to a point where I just started losing sight of everything and everyone around me. And I was frankly addicted to my job. And I went through a tough season where I knew God was trying to get my attention to slow down and to pump the brakes, but I didn't want to, because I'm at the height of my career, right? I don't stop now. I don't slow down now. I just keep charging forward. And so I allowed that fear to prevent me from doing what I knew God wanted me to do, which was slow down and get my priorities straight. So I ended up going through this, what I call a season of hell. It was 7 months, and it started with there were 5 major events. It started with a miscarriage that led to an emergency surgery, and then led to the next thing that happened was a concussion. Somebody threw an object at my head when I was doing a live shot. It knocked me out of work for 3 weeks. And then the day that I got cleared to go back to work, Jenna, I get in a head-on car crash, and then I get influenza, and it turns into pneumonia. One of my colleagues here said, "Oh my gosh, you're Job." It did feel like that. I felt like God really had to get my attention, to get me to slow down. And so I went to my bosses here at ABC and I just said, guys, I need to slow down. I need to walk away from The View. I need to step away from Good Morning America weekend edition anchoring. And that was hard because it's everything that I'd worked for so long, but I knew I needed to slow down or my addiction, my job was going to get the best of me. But in that space, I said I need a more manageable schedule. I'd like to work Monday through Friday, and I'd really like to launch a faith podcast to give newsmakers and influencers a platform, a mainstream media platform to talk about their faith, regardless of what that faith may be, so that hopefully we can start having really important conversations about who we really are and talking about one another's beautiful traditions, whether they're Muslim traditions or Jewish traditions or Christian traditions, so we can start breaking down some of those barriers and some of those walls, but just an opportunity to have some really provocative conversations.
Yeah, and it is a great podcast. I think a lot of our viewers will really enjoy it. Once again, it's Journeys of Faith with Paula Ferris. And Paula, thank you so much for joining us today. It's great to see you.
Thank you, Jenna. God bless. Thanks for having me.
Great interview, Jenna. Still ahead on Faith Nation, millennials and the pro-life movement, how they're helping lead the charge.
Too often we carry baggage from our past. You know what it's like. It affects everything and everyone in our lives. It's always there, weighing us down and keeping us from achieving true happiness. But do you know God never meant for us to be trapped in the past? You can be free of your baggage. Learn how God's forgiveness leads to changed lives and new beginnings. Call the 700 Club.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5, Wednesday night at 9:30.
Tikkun Olam.
This is our nature as a country.
To make the world a better place.
Literally, we felt the earth shaking.
The Christian Broadcasting Network presents To Life, how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
This film needs to be seen by everyone.
I was in tears.
Now you can own the inspiring documentary To Life on DVD.
There is blood on our hands if we know and we walk away.
I'm so grateful that this film was made.
To Life can be yours for a gift of $10 or more. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com.
We know that every minute counts to save life.
It'll bless Israel, but it'll also bless all the friends of Israel.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are making the world a better place. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com to get your copy today.
Well, you might remember just 1 week ago, an estimated 100,000 people marched in the annual March for Life right here in Washington, D.C.
And leading the way, 200 college students.
Young people are the heart of the March for Life, and it's your generation that is making America the pro-family, pro-life nation.
President Trump giving them a special shout-out and making history by becoming the first sitting president to attend in person.
It's an honor for the top leadership of our country to support any cause.
Ethan Van Buskirk is a student at Colorado Christian University and the president of CCU for Life.
We believe that every single human life is inherently valuable, whether that's in the womb or whether that's at the end of life too.
And this younger interest seems to be a growing trend. A Marist poll from February 2019 showed a significant shift among people under 45. That January, 28% identified as pro-life. And just 1 month later, that number jumped to 47%. And those identifying as pro-choice fell drastically from 65 to 48%.
The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired.
Pollsters credit the shift to last year's debate over late-term abortion, fueled by measures in New York and Virginia.
The more people I talk to, the more I am starting to learn that, yes, like we're not alone in this. There are more people than we think. There are more people who are deciding one way or the other. And I think that's really cool.
These students point to science, technology, and their faith as the main reasons behind their views.
For me personally, I would say my faith is what inspires me to be specifically passionate about life. I believe in a God who has created life, that every human being has value.
Other data, though, does still show strong support for abortion among millennials. In a Gallup poll from last January, nearly 1/3 of 18 to 34-year-olds said abortion should be legal under any circumstance. Compare that to the 21% of those 55 and older who felt the same way. Still, these CCU students say they can't help but notice what's happening around them.
I absolutely think it's growing. Last year, my school took 27 students, and this year we took almost 200.
And from the National Mall to campus, they say their push to advocate for the unborn doesn't stop here. They tell me they are hoping to bring even more of their peers to Washington, D.C. next year.
When we come back, Kanye West is moving his next famous Sunday service to Miami. We explain why when we come back, next on Faith Nation.
It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
From Washington, D.C., uncompromising stories, interviews, and analysis from veteran journalists David Brody.
Escalating fight.
Jenna Browder.
Chose his words carefully.
Ben Kennedy.
Plan to join him.
And Amber Strong.
For impeachment grows a little bit louder.
Bringing you the political news that matters.
We get out and tell the story of the progress that we're making in this country.
Watch Faith Nation, weeknights at 6 on the CBN News Channel.
We will move the American embassy to the eternal capital of the Jewish people, Jerusalem.
As the nations rage, you can stand with Israel.
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
Call 1-800-700-7000 and get to life.
This is our nature as a country.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religious he have, which color he is. This is what I'm doing.
Support Israel in their time of need. Get to Life, now available on DVD. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
And I wish that other people throughout the world could see this side of Israel.
From Jesus is King to Super Bowl Sunday, Kanye West is taking his Sunday service from L.A. to Miami.
And it comes just in time for the big showdown between the San Francisco 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs.
Whatever it's called is somebody calling me.
The rapper turned gospel singer bringing his Sunday service to the masses this year is teaming up with a church in Florida on the morning of Super Bowl 54. West's Sunday Service Choir released its first album, Jesus is King, on Christmas Day. And I think that's a great way to start Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah, no kidding. A lot of people happy about that.
For sure.
Well, that is going to do it for Faith Nation.
Have a great weekend, everyone.